Imagine stepping into a time machine and landing in the 1950s, the decade of rock and roll, diners, drive-ins, and the rise of suburbia. But the 1950s weren't just about poodle skirts and Elvis Presley shaking his hips. They were also about innovation. In fact, many of the things we take for granted today, from swiping a credit card to clicking a TV remote, were born in that era. So today, we're counting down the top 20 inventions from the 1950s. These weren't just cool gadgets. They reshaped culture, technology, and daily life. Some of them are still in your pocket, your car, or your kitchen right now. 1. Credit card, 1950. It all started with dinner, literally. The Diners Club card launched in 1950 after businessman Frank McNamara forgot his wallet at a New York restaurant. Embarrassed, he dreamed up a universal charge card people could use at multiple establishments. At first, it was cardboard, cardboard, but soon evolved into the plastic we know today. Back then, using a credit card wasn't just paying, it was flexing. You weren't fumbling for coins. You were swiping your way into the future. And let's be honest, without the credit card, half of online shopping, airline miles, and even emergency pizza orders wouldn't exist. 2. Superglue, 1951. Imagine inventing something completely by accident. Harry Coover was working on clear plastics for gun sights during World War II. He stumbled on a sticky compound that bonded almost instantly. It was too messy for weapons, but perfect for fixing pretty much everything else. By the 1950s, it hit the shelves as superglue. A broken mug, fixed. Dad's favorite chair, glued back together. Fingers stuck to each other, also, thanks to superglue. It was marketed as so strong that in ads, they literally lifted cars with it. Not bad for a lab mistake. 3rd polio vaccine, 1952 to 1955. Before the 1950s, polio was terrifying. Summers often brought outbreaks. Swimming pools closed. Parents kept kids indoors. Some who caught it ended up in iron lungs, giant metal machines that helped them breathe. Enter Jonas Salk. In 1952, he developed the first effective polio vaccine. By 1955, mass vaccinations began. For the first time in years, parents could breathe easier. It wasn't just an invention, it was a lifesaver. Within decades, polio cases plummeted worldwide. Salk didn't even patent the vaccine, saying, "Could you patent the sun?" Talk about a gift to humanity. 4. Mr. Potato Head, 1952. This one's fun. Mr. Potato Head was the first toy ever advertised on TV. But here's the twist. The original version didn't come with a plastic potato. Nope. You supplied your own real potato. Kids stabbed googly eyes, plastic mouths, and mustaches into vegetables straight from the pantry. Moms probably loved it until the spuds started to rot. Eventually, Hasbro added the plastic potato body in 1964. But by then, the toy was already a cultural icon. Mr. Potato Head wasn't just a toy, it was a pioneer. It marked the start of the toy TV advertising revolution. 5. Barcodes, 1952. Ever zip through a grocery checkout with a beep? You can thank the 1950s. In 1952, Joseph Woodland and Bernard Silver patented the barcode. Their first design? It looked like a bullseye target. It took decades for the technology to catch on, but once it did, barcodes changed everything. Inventory, retail, shipping. Without it, Amazon warehouses would look like chaos. So the next time you scan your soda at the store, remember, It all started with two guys doodling lines and circles in the 50s. 6. Solar cell, 1954. Before Teslas and rooftop panels, there was Bell Labs. In 1954, they created the first practical solar cell. It was tiny, expensive, and only powered a toy Ferris wheel. But it proved sunlight could be turned into electricity. Fast forward to today, and entire cities are experimenting with solar power grids. The 1950s version wasn't practical for homes, but it was revolutionary for satellites and space exploration. In other words, without this breakthrough, your neighbor's Tesla roof wouldn't be flexing right now. 7. Microwave oven, 1954. Technically invented earlier, the microwave oven became commercially available in the 1950s. The first models were giant, over 5 feet tall, 750 pounds, and cost thousands of dollars. Not exactly countertop friendly, but by the mid-1950s, the design shrank. Prices dropped, and suddenly reheating leftovers didn't take 45 minutes in the oven. Pair this with the invention of TV dinners, also in the 50s, and you've got the recipe for modern convenience food culture. Fast food may have started in the drive-thru, but the microwave made it possible at home. 8. Transistor radio, 1954. Before the transistor, radios were bulky boxes. But in 1954, Texas Instruments and Regency released the first portable transistor radio. Suddenly, music wasn't just in your living room, it was in your pocket. Teens could sneak Elvis or Buddy Holly into their bedrooms, beach parties had a soundtrack, and radio became personal. It's fair to say the transistor radio was the smartphone of its time. Small, portable, and absolutely culture-shifting. 9. TV remote control, 1955. The Lazy Bones remote from Zenith arrived in 1955. It was wired, so technically you were still tethered to the TV, but it was better than getting up every 5 minutes. Later that year, Zenith released the Flashmatic, a wireless remote that worked with light beams. Problem? Sunlight sometimes changed the channel by accident. Still, it was the start of something huge. Today, we complain when the streaming remote eats batteries. Back then, just having a button to skip commercials was magic. 10. Velcro, 1955. Georges de Mestral, a Swiss engineer, took his dog for a walk one day and noticed burrs sticking to his pants. Instead of cursing them, he studied them under a microscope and copied their tiny hooks and loops. Velcro was born. At first, people laughed. Who'd want fabric that stuck together? But NASA loved it for spacesuits. Then kids' shoes made it mainstream. Velcro proved that sometimes genius is just paying attention to the little annoyances in life. 11. Hovercraft, 1955 to 56. Christopher Cockrell wanted vehicles that could glide over land and water. Using a coffee tin and a vacuum cleaner motor, he demonstrated his idea, a cushion of air beneath a craft. By the mid-1950s, the hovercraft was real. It looked futuristic, like something straight out of a sci-fi comic. Today, hovercrafts are still used for military operations, rescue missions, and even passenger transport. Not bad for something that started in a shed with a vacuum cleaner. 12th video recorder, 1956. Imagine watching a TV show and being able to record it for later. In 1956, Ampex released the first videotape recorder. It was the size of a refrigerator and cost $50,000. Not exactly ready for your living room, but TV stations loved it. For the first time, broadcasts could be saved, replayed, and edited. This invention set the stage for VHS tapes, DVRS, streaming, and the binge-watching culture we live in now. 13. Nickel-cadmium rechargeable batteries, 1950s. Batteries existed before, but the 1950s saw big strides in rechargeable tech. Nickel-cadmium, NiCd batteries became more compact, powering everything from radios to early cordless tools. Think of it as the ancestor of the battery in your phone or laptop. Without these early breakthroughs, portable electronics wouldn't have taken off the way they did. 14. Fortran programming language, 1957. Computers in the 1950s were massive, room-sized beasts. Programming them was tedious. Then came Fortran, one of the first high-level languages. Created by IBM, Fortran made coding faster and more accessible. It powered everything from weather forecasting to NASA's early space missions. So, if you've ever written Hello World in Python or JavaScript, thank the 50s for giving programmers their first real language. 15. Sputnik 1, 1957. October 4th, 1957, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik 1, the first artificial satellite. A shiny metal ball with 4 antennas, it beeped as it orbited Earth. The world was stunned. Suddenly, space wasn't science fiction. It was real. Sputnik sparked the space race, pushing the U.S. to create NASA and aim for the moon. It didn't just orbit Earth, it changed geopolitics, education, and technology overnight. 16. Laser, 1958. Concept. Physicists Charles Townes and Arthur Schawlow came up with the idea of amplifying light into a focused beam, what they called the laser. At the time, people joked it was a solution looking for a problem. Today, lasers scan your groceries, correct your eyesight, guide missiles, and power your Blu-ray player. The 1950s gave us the blueprint for one of the most versatile tools ever invented. 17th Integrated Circuit, 1958. Jack Kilby at Texas Instruments faced a challenge. Computers needed thousands of separate components wired together, and it was messy. His solution? Put them all on a single piece of semiconductor material. That was the first integrated circuit, the foundation of modern electronics. Without it, there'd be no smartphones, no laptops, no smart fridges telling you you're out of milk. 18. Microchip, 1959. Robert Noyce, later co-founder of Intel, improved on Kilby's design, creating a microchip that was easier to mass produce. The microchip is basically the brain of modern devices. From cars to medical devices to your smartwatch, it all traces back to the late 1950s. This wasn't just an invention, it was the start of the digital revolution. 19. Seat belts, 1959, three-point design. Car safety wasn't a huge priority in the 1950s. Then Volvo engineer Niels Bohlin designed the modern three-point seat belt. Simple, effective, life-saving. Volvo even made the patent free so every car company could use it. Today, seat belts save over 1 million lives every year. Sometimes, the most powerful inventions aren't flashy. They're just practical. 20. Xerox 914. Photocopier, 1959. Before photocopiers, making copies was slow and expensive. Then came the Xerox 914, the first plain paper copier. It could crank out 7 copies a minute. Offices went from carbon paper chaos to copy machine culture. Love it or hate it, this invention defined modern office life. The 1950s weren't just about jukeboxes and diners, they were a launching pad for the modern world. Think about it. In just one decade, we got the polio vaccine, the microchip, the credit card, the photocopier, and even the seatbelt. Some inventions saved lives, others made life more convenient. And a few, like Sputnik, changed history itself. The crazy part? Many of these started small. A toy potato, a dog covered in burrs, a scientist embarrassed at dinner, yet they grew into innovations that shaped the world we live in today. So the next time you swipe a credit card, pop food in the microwave, or click a remote, remember, you've got the 1950s to thank. Which invention on this list do you think had the biggest impact on your life? Drop your answer in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this trip back in time, hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.